Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters, it's a special edition of the Stacking Benjamin Show. So, Joe just texted me earlier today and he said, "Hey, Doug, I found a short film about retirement we should totally watch with the gang." And I'm thinking, great, finally something shorter than OG's disclaimers. Seems like these movie guys managed to say in 7 minutes what we've been talking about for 14 years. Joe, what are we going to do here tonight?
Hey, man. How are you?
Are we watching? We got everybody here? Did you call everybody?
I told everybody, I hope the duct tape holds up because we have had a heck of a time getting this stuff running. We on Monday, people may know we do our show live here and this platform would not work. And then today we got here, we tested it. We tested it 2 times during the week. We told the people, anyway, long story.
I can attest to that test.
Long story, but we're super glad that you are here. We're super glad you're hanging out with us. We're going to watch this movie. Actually, let's bring on our third amigo. Mr. OG is here. How are you, man?
I'm being very patient right now.
I thought for sure this is where he was going to invoke the "I'm just here so I don't get fined."
He's like,
he's breathing like, through it.
If we saw, I think it would have been funny if I went to OG's camera and there's just an empty chair. Like he's
it's close. I didn't eat dinner yet. I was like, oh, we're going to be out of here by this time.
It's going to be good.
I can eat a little bit. You know,
well, we're super happy that you're here with us, everybody. We've got people from Mexico, from Chile. We've got people from all over the United States. I saw Minnesota. I saw North Carolina. I saw Austin. We've got people all over the place. Say hi, and we're going to spend the next 7 minutes. So this film, everyone, is a film that was up for an Oscar called Retirement Plan. Spoiler, it didn't win. However, just the fact that we had a movie that's about the thing that we love to talk about that made it that far is fantastic. We've all seen it. Well, we'll let you guys decide because we're about to show you that. So we're going to move OG and Doug backstage, and I'm going to fire up the film projector here so that we can watch this thing. But first, a message from our sponsors. No, I am kidding. We don't have sponsors for the live event. We do have 2 announcements, by the way, though, before we start. Number 1 is, I know that a lot of you get the 201, our newsletter. That's probably how you find out that we're on the new feed. If you don't, and you're new here, Kevin Bailey, who's hanging out with us tonight, Kevin writes that thing. It's amazing. StackingBenjamins.com/201. That's the name of our newsletter. 101 for the stuff we talk about on the podcast and on our videos. And then 201, we go a little bit deeper. We had one out today talking about becoming a maestro of investing. A really, really nicely written piece by Kevin. Also, we have meetup groups around the country. StackingBenjamins.com/bad, BAD, Benjamins After Dark. We have them all over, and we're setting up new ones fairly consistently now. It's really exciting to see. Tucson gets underway this month. So we've got that. And then third, and this is the big news, guys. I know you've heard me talk about the vault in the past, right? Protecting your identity, man, with all the stuff going on around the world, there's cyber warfare going on. You don't want to be a part of it with your credit, with your identity. We cover that. This is coming out in the next 2 weeks. I don't have the date for you yet, but this will be the first time outside of our bad groups that I'm announcing this, which is it's now going to do budget and net worth tracking. And we're also going to include our guides as part of the vault. I mentioned that we try to make these products better and better all the time, much like our guides that we update every month. So the vault is getting a 2.0 facelift. I'm super excited, but stackingbenjamins.com/vault gets you there. And I believe Tina on her team is putting all those links aside. All right. Those are the announcements beforehand. Let's get to it. I am going to take just a second because the miracle of sharing my screen here. Let's share and let's maximize and let's change this around in real time. See if I can get the layout right. All right, everybody, without further ado, the Oscar nominated Retirement Plan.
When I retire, I will reply to every email I've ever flagged. I will clean up my desktop. I'll read the 35 years of saved articles on my reading list. I will finish all those books I started. I will play the lifetime of computer games I missed out on. I'll birdwatch. I'll learn magpies are beautiful, but terrifying. I'll learn the names of trees and know which spring flowers bloom first. I will swim every morning. I will learn to play a single piano piece exceptionally well. Write a devastating yet optimistic piece of poetry. When I retire, I will get a dog. I will get a cat. I will start with a fish. Maybe a terrapin. I will learn how a terrapin is different from a turtle and how that affects my choice. I will hike. I will see a point in hiking. I will know when a walk becomes a hike. I will get so good at meditation. I will be so present, so aggressively present. Then I will patch that hole, replace that button. I will learn how to juggle not just a 3-ball cascade, Rubinstein's Revenge. I'll organize my digital photos, then my wardrobe, then my drawers, then my pantry, inspired by that book about organizing that I finally read. I will have to buy so many plastic boxes. Retired me will have so much money as a result of the pension I haven't yet started. I will find out what a pension is. I will order wine by year and specific area of Italy, grazie, but not in an annoying way. I will learn to like whiskey. I will get good at saying yes. I will get better at saying no. I will cry more. And less. When I retire, I will make the perfect meatball and pair it with a 2019 red from Tuscany. The rain that year, my God, you can taste it. I'll smoke weed all day long, or try some other drugs. I'll Google microdosing and start there. I will stretch. I will yoga. I'll drink 8 glasses of water every day. I'll sleep for 8 hours every night. I will see a play. I will see if I like plays. I'll give back. I'll know who to give back to and why I want to give back to them more than the others. I will eat more vegetables. I will grow a vegetable. I will find out what to do with a leek. I will find out what a leek looks like. I'll fight a man. I'll kill a fish. I'll drive a bus. I'll drive one of those airport cars. Nobody's going to stop me. I'll travel more. I'll travel more. I'll travel more. I'll get a telescope. Get into camping.
No! Camping is horrible!
I will finally find my sport. I will paraglide. I will not paraglide. I'll move to a town by the sea. I've always loved towns by the sea. I'll remember to breathe. I will learn to speak another language. I will learn to tell people how I feel. I will take better care of myself. I will take better care of my body. I will take better care of my teeth. I will take better care of my mind. Meet up with that person. Have that conversation. I'll go to an art gallery. I'll want to be there once I get there. I will completely nail my final words. I will haunt the absolute shit out of my 6th class enemy, Deirdre Hogan. I'll finally know if you have the time you have and then it ends, or if there is more time.
I can't wait to talk about this movie. I've been waiting so long to have a conversation about this film and about all of the myriad of things that they're talking about in this film. Just 7 minutes to me that really packs a punch. And it's interesting. Christine Benz over at Morningstar wrote a piece about this film today, mentioning that we had talked about it at the Retire Meet conference, and the people who put us together at the Retire Meet conference, they're here with us. So let's introduce our special roundtable discussion participants. They're the guys that put on the biggest retirement planning single day conference in America, and also the host of Talking Real Money, our good friends, Don McDonald and Tom Cocker here.
I don't know how to say this nicely, so I'm just going to put it out there. In the time that this got delayed, I actually retired. So it's been good to see you all. It's a pleasure. I wish I'd watched this earlier because there's some ideas there, but thank you so much, and I wish you all the very, very best. So.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, it is. It's Don's on the East Coast. It's past your bedtime, Mr. McDonald. We don't have you. You are muted.
I'm hearing all of you guys, but not Joe. I'm not hearing Joe. I was hearing Tom.
There you are. He's of course he's not hearing me.
And I'm not hearing Doug.
Got you.
Oh, well.
Yep.
Oh, now I'm hearing Doug.
Okay.
I think he's got to tell Don that he needs to refresh.
Not hearing Joe.
You hearing me? Because they're saying you need to refresh. Or I'd just shut you down, as I've been trying to do for 25
should I refresh?
Years,
yes.
I can refresh.
Yeah, we will do that.
Are you sure you want to leave this page?
Deodorant,
No, I'm afraid of leaving this page. Oh, no, this could be forever. Goodbye.
All right.
Wait a second. So all I have to say is I can't hear Joe?
Had you known.
Get out of jail card?
I've been doing this for 15 years.
I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk first about the entire movie. What I want to talk about is just maybe a single moment that maybe hit you guys the hardest. Don, can you hear us now?
I'm back. Yes. Thank you for the
Excellent.
refreshing. Thank you for the refreshing change.
It's going to get rid of the ghost of you maybe in just a second. But I don't know if you heard my question, Don, and we can start with you, which is just let's not dissect the whole movie. Let's just talk about one moment that maybe hit you hard. What was one moment?
Well, there were a couple. But you know what really hit me? I think it wasn't necessarily a moment. It was the transition from him being this big overweight guy to vanishing. That really bothered me, seeing him become less of a person and start to disappear. And I knew, you know what's coming when that disappearing starts. That's That one was really tough.
Yeah, a friend of mine is a doctor who works with people that are aging, and he says, Don, people will be healthy and vibrant until they're in their mid-90s and they're mobile, but the second they're not mobile, it gets very difficult. Tom, a moment in the movie that hit you hard?
Yeah, I think when he says, "I'll nail my last words," because the film is really, most of us are defined by what we do in life, but the film is really talking about what he didn't do. So it's kind of a twist on how people generally view their lives. Like, look, I had this podcast, I had this radio show, blah blah blah. But this is about all the things you didn't do. So how does he wind all that into his last words? It's kind of an interesting switch of how we normally look at our lives. I'll put
It's
it
funny.
that way.
I laughed out loud at that line. I mean, there
Yeah.
were some funny moments, but that one I actually laughed out loud because it was so like what wait what like I'm going to stick the landing. Even the East German judge is going to like how I finished my life here. OG, a moment that stuck out.
I think that I was thinking about something that I saw not too long ago that suggested that some commentary about the average life expectancy of, a normal American male is something like 78 or something like that. And if that's the true number, then middle age is like 38 or 39, right? And we think of middle age as being like 50 or 55 or something like that, when if that's the math. And I think as I was looking at this video, that person seemed way older than that. I don't know why. It's a stick figure, just like whatever little cartoon. But in my mind, that person was like 90 or something.
Yeah.
And
At which point, though?
At the end, when he
at
had
the
the
very
walker?
end?
yeah, like
at the very end,
he
yeah.
progressed from retirement through his 80s and 90s, and as I, just kind of thought about that, and I think for me, what I was thinking about was, I wonder how many people are considering that their retirement is, or this period of time is that 30, 40-year time horizon, when in fact, on average, it might be 13.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm even more depressed now. Thank
Yeah.
you.
The other thing I wrote to Doug, by the way, was at least Up had balloons.
And a cute little kid.
You cry with balloons. At least when you're crying, you got the balloons. It is interesting, though, because he is envisioning this as a long retirement. I mean, all this stuff that he's going to do in his head, when he retires, it is going to last a long time in his head as he's planning.
I
all
like
this
the
stuff.
comment down here from Heavy Metal Money that says camping is terrible. I did have that feeling too, where he said he's just going to go camping, and I was like, what? And then
I did like the last. Wasn't his very next line? I'm gonna understand. Yeah, I'm gonna understand why people like camping.
Yeah.
Doug, what was a moment in the movie that hit you?
Well, maybe similar to Tom. I think it was Tom who said the stark change when he went from being this relatively big, overweight, healthy person to a thin, older person. And what I felt when I saw that was time immediately compressed. Like it went from this big, expansive kind of horizon of I can do all of these things to like a super fast zoom in. Wow, you're here now. And man, your time horizon just shrunk to almost nothing. And
Paragliding is out of the picture. Paragliding is
and
not an option.
that one really that made an impact on me. That was the visual I had in my head, was when he was in the hospital bed, was just this tunnel vision almost of time.
Yeah, somebody online said the other day as they were talking about this film that they found it really depressing, and I love seeing the full myriad of the way people are feeling this film, because I feel like everybody kind of has a different reaction to it. But if it felt a little too real, maybe it's because it's poking at something bigger than one guy's story, right? I mean, Don, let's start with you. Let's talk about assumptions that this film begins to tear apart at.
Well, the assumption's one that you can afford it. And that was really driven home well with the lines about the pension. When I start the pension, or find out what a pension is, or find out there's no such thing as a pension. And that you're totally screwed because you've got to rely on Social Security, which isn't going to keep, it's not going to give you that life you imagined having in retirement. Even the reading of the books, you probably can't afford those.
Well, and obviously then, the sarcastic me is like, the time to look at a pension. I mean, you had to look at a pension when you were in your 20s or 30s for it to matter by the time you're in your 50s or 60s. Tom, it feels like it's getting at this idea, and OG brought this up, that I have forever,
Yeah,
and that this is down the road.
There is that feeling. I tell you, the other one that it's striking to me is there's no one else in the film. It's very solitary. I mean, this is like, I'm not going to go through retirement on my own.
He was naked with a bunch of people.
Yeah, but not very much. And there's no one else who really interacts with him other than sort of sitting there.
He didn't like it either.
Yeah, he walked away from. So that to me is shocking because I have no intent. I mean, there are people, Don among them, by the way, that would be fine being by themselves for the next 30 years, 25, well, 15 for you, Don. But I want to have people around. My family all lives close by. My wife likes having me here from time to time. So I found that shocking and striking that there was no interaction. And I think, by the way, that comes from the fact that this movie is more about men maybe than it is about women, because women would make a film about the groups they're in, the people they hang out with, that kind of thing, I think, more than this film did.
It is interesting because the good news and bad news about retirement that you guys all know, and maybe our stackers don't know, is the fact that that retirement is generally the happiest time of people's lives. It is. There are more happy retirees than any other age group. But the bad news, and Tom, you're the one that told me these statistics, especially for some men, if it's not happy, it isn't a little unhappy. It is really, really, really unhappy.
Well, the men in their 70s have the highest suicide rate in the country. Imagine that. I mean, the highest, that's the biggest number, because they get there, they don't have purpose, people don't need them the way they used to, they're not engaged the way they used to, and as I said, you're tied up oftentimes with your self-worth around the things you did. You don't do as
and
many
they
of those
find out
things.
they can't go paragliding.
That's never been on my list either, so...
I feel like, OG, the financial services industry, when you watch things about retirement, this film is a little bit of a parody of it, and you can see right through it where they're going. Why is he waiting on all this stuff? And yet financial services industry is selling, there's going to be unicorns and rainbows in retirement. It's just going to be this whole, I'm going to read all those 350 books I haven't read. Finally, all these I'm going to play all the video games I missed out on. Why are we selling people that when this film is making a good point that I don't think anybody in the audience that watched this thinks that's true?
Well, I'm not entirely sure that, I don't know who the we is that you're talking about, because I think that we do a good job of reminding people to, think about life as a balance more than a, beginning, middle, end type of thing. I think if I skew any direction, I probably skew more than maybe everybody here on do it now versus wait, because, and that's just maybe my personality of like, it'll always work out. It'll be fine. It's like, well, that costs a lot of money. I know it'll be okay. But I personally have never been burned by that. I think in talking with clients about stuff that they put off, and then you do the right thing. You kind of do the math and go, you're still good. You can do this. You can do that trip. You can do the whatever. And then they do it and recognize how much, joy they had with that. It's a balancing act. And I don't know that there's any right answer to any of this, because you can't YOLO your life for 30 years and show up at 65 and go, crap. Now what?
I don't know, but I think maybe Joe, are you referring to those ads that some of the brokerage firms and the like run, where it's like, you can afford that beach house, you can afford that yacht,
right? Yes.
Yeah. If you're Elon like, Musk, you can afford that.
Though, yacht. Don, it's interesting that you use those couple of examples, because when you think of the litany of goals that the main character in the movie had, there were very few that were like that. It was, I'm going to read these books, I'm going to learn these birds, I'm going to, be more social or whatever it is. But very few were these big, giant things that are tied to money. Most of them were things that would be somehow fulfilling to him. And I think it's interesting that why do those firms push those goals or highlight visually those goals that are all around big giant dollars, because if you don't focus on those, we don't need them.
Yeah.
Right? We
Good
don't need
point.
those firms if
Right.
our goals are more grounded in things that really fulfill us.
You
which are
can
more
afford to watch
relationship-based
birds.
Absolutely. Right? You can find the time to read the books if you put your damn phone down.
And
Right?
they're
You
honestly,
can do all of those things.
And they're
Okay,
honestly,
I'm feeling badly now. Hold on, let me put the phone down. Okay, it's down now. It's down, Doug. Are you happy?
God, finally.
And there honestly is no reason to wait on bird watching, right? I mean, just the
Right.
fact that he's going to finally learn about birds, there's no reason to wait on that. It's not like it's costing him an arm and a leg. Like, that's crazy. Tom, it's interesting at Retire Meet, Christine Benz spoke for an hour, gave a great talk about how to retire. She talked about this idea that the guy kind of alludes to when he talks about animals. He talks about, what, I'm going to get a dog, and the dog's licking his face and he's laughing. And he's like, maybe I'll start with a cat. You know what? I think I'll start with a fish. Like, this idea of slowly wading into it. Christine said, she really gets behind this idea with retirement, this idea of maybe wading into retirement. If we got some stackers watching who are 35, maybe start doing some of this stuff today. Or when you retire, maybe not completely retire, see if your company will let you maybe just cut back some.
I think that's spot on. I think the people who are successful do it that way. The people that have to flip a switch and go from saving to spending, for example, or go from being engaged in something completely immersed all the way into nothing, they're the ones that struggle the most. I think at Retire Meet also, I raised the story of my father, who was a very successful medical doctor in the Air Force. The federal government told him he had to quit at 65. He wouldn't have quit. He would have kept working, and he had a 15-year retirement that I think he was fairly miserable at. He did not have any of these things that he considered about sort of how to be engaged or how to have purpose. So, yeah, I mean, this is something Don and I spend a lot of time talking about, too, because he right now he only works 10 hours a week anyway, maybe 20 if we get really lucky. So him moving to 10 or 5 hours a week is going to be perfect for his retirement.
It's not going to happen.
Oh,
And
okay.
by the way, as truly the old guy here, yes, I am. I don't have any desire to do what the guy in the movie did.
No.
To me, that I would be just a miserable person if I wasn't functioning at some higher level with work and creating and doing something positive, not just filling the holes.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I think that what I'm stuck on is Tom, something that you said about your dad, and that hit me at Retire Meet when you told that story. And it strikes me tonight that I just saw the statistic: 52% of people don't get to choose the date they retire. Right? They get forced into retirement at an earlier day. So, that I think maybe this film might even remind us that we got to have a little flexibility. I'm not going to do this stuff later is what it's talking about, but maybe that also transitioned to, I might need some flexibility with my plan, because this retirement plan might start on a different day than I hope it would.
I don't know. We've had, I think, maybe 3 or 4 people retire this year. Literally, planned it. Here's the date. Of those 4 people that have retired, or maybe 5, 2 of them actually picked the date. Like, it's going to be this day. I'm going to work 80% until then, whatever, right? Like, that's going to be the other 3 were, we had a mutual agreement that now would be a great time for me to be done. I had planned on working 2 more years, but so I think, it sounds like the math just anecdotally kind of checks with what Tom said. And when it comes to planning, flexibility is the most important piece. That's really the name of the game, whether it's flexibility around your spending, whether it's able to, pull the trigger a day or 2 early, or do things maybe that are a little more aggressive, in terms of what your goals are. All you're doing, I think, from your 20s to your 50s, let's say, is trying to give yourself the opportunity to have flexibility.
And we're seeing that a lot here, by the way, Josh, because here we have a certain software company that's just down the road.
Yeah, never heard of them.
And they
Never use
decided,
them.
a lot of people over the age of 55 are getting the heave because, you know, they're cutting back a lot. So they're running in that exact same situation. We also know that this is not the only place in America where that's happening, but that's a serious issue where you say, I'll work forever, and you find out not so fast.
Yeah, I've got 10 more years. I'm 50. I got 10, at least 10, maybe 12 years, you know, and then and yeah, you find out when you're 54, you got a 6-month severance, and the challenge is it's not unheard of to be discriminated against at 55 to get a new job. You know, you're not supposed to. Nobody actually does it. But come on.
Yeah. It also strikes me that when we talk about this idea of starting things earlier, a lot of people who are stackers hanging out with us tonight, they're here probably because, and they enjoy this because they've spent their whole life saving, right? They spent their whole life getting ready for retirement and financial independence. And I'm sure it's the same, Don, with your Talking Real Money audience, with the people that I met at Retire Meet, some fantastic people that have spent a lot of energy saving. And now we have to all of a sudden, to enjoy life, turn off that saving mentality. And oh no, Don, you're a spender now, right?
Yeah.
Now,
and that's hard to do because you develop a habit of saving and investing and building wealth, and now you got to turn it the other way and start, instead of accumulating, I love this term, decumulating.
But it also strikes me that,
It's like
you know,
disembarking.
This guy, well, we obviously don't get in this guy's psyche about why he's waiting, why he's got this list of things he's going to do later. But it does strike me that when you've got a saving mentality, that's kind of what you do. You're like, I'm going to keep putting away these acorns so that later on, like, how have you guys helped people transition into, you know what, it's okay to start spending some money?
You give them permission. I mean, a lot of people. I just met with a woman today that came in the office, been a great saver, actually works at the aforementioned software company. And she's mid-60s. She thinks she's about to get the boot. She's been a very good saver. She spends no money, and she has no kids. She has no relations really at all. And I'm telling her, you should go be doing some of those things you want to do. There are some things on her list. So as advisors, this is something we didn't do 25 years ago. We give them permission. It's like, yeah, you should be going out and spending that money. But I think it's hard to overcome. But what Don just said about being a saver all that time, and in my life, by the way, since my folks were Depression era folks, my dad wore the same pair of high top Converse shoes for 35 years. That is always in the back of my head. Like,
the Colonel Doctor wore Converse. Come on.
He might still be wearing them for all I know. I mean, he's passed away, but that's a bad joke. But anyway, the fact of the matter is he never got over that. I think I struggle with it too. I'm the guy who runs around, turns out the lights, does all that stuff. That's a very hard emotional switch to make. And that's why I like your idea of sort of wading into all this first, get a feel for retirement, and then maybe pulling the trigger.
I was talking to a guy today. I was interviewing him for an upcoming show. His name's Jamie Hopkins, really brilliant guy. And people will hear the full interview later. But what he talked about, OG, was this idea that, you know, that last year that you save in retirement, that last year you're saving for it, that money that you put away in the 401k or in the Roth or wherever, that ain't going to do that much. Maybe that first year while you're still working, start spending a little bit of that money, like start training yourself to maybe go the other way. Because when he looks at all the money you saved, the money you saved in your 20s, 30s, 40s, that's going to be great. If you're retiring at 65, that money you retire between 64 and 65, maybe that's your training wheels money instead. What do you think about that?
I think that's an interesting observation. It's like I think it's also like the person who says, you know, at 64, should I put, you know, should I do a backdoor Roth contribution right now? I've never done that. Should I put $7,500 in a Roth? It's like, I mean, you can.
20 years ago. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure that today is the day that it's going to really make a big lift.
Not going to move the needle.
But that's an interesting thing, especially, you know, I think what we've been spending a lot of energy on with clients is you know, again, this is a balancing act, right? And you see that chart, and you can do it in Excel, you can do it with your financial planner, you can do it on an HP calculator. When like, I got this money, I'm going to take this money out, it's going to grow by this, and what does it look like? And it looks like this for everybody. and you see that big number at the end, and you go, well, I know that's full of crap. But, you know, it's probably some number around there, right? It may be a little higher, a little lower, plus or minus 20%. But if it says 15 million when you're 100, you know, accept that the number might be 8, it could be 20, it might be 5, I don't know, but it's some number, right? There's some number left. And what we've been trying to really work with clients on a bunch is being okay with that number, that chart starting to slope downward. You know, not saying get it to 0, but what is that? What level of consumption is the wrong word. What level of spend is probably a better way of thinking about it. Decumulation. How's that?
Yeah. There you go, Don. There you go.
I was listening.
Hard word. Yeah.
You know, that's really interesting, and I like what you said, because it brings me back to the movie. The guy, when he was fat and happy, he was buying the nice wines.
Yeah.
When he's in the walker, he's not doing that anymore. So maybe that curve, that decumulation curve, needs to be a little steeper at the beginning, because you're, other than healthcare, your spending will probably taper off later, because you're not going to have the strength, the energy, or the desire to enjoy a lot of those things. So do it while you can still enjoy the glass of wine.
It's really good, Josh. And here's the thing about that big number at the end. We show people that number all the time. Most of them are excited, although there was a guy once where we showed him that he was going to have $8 million, and he said, "You've got this all wrong, Tom. I want the last check I write to bounce."
Yeah.
which is tricky, because you write it and you got to hang on to it, and it's, you know, your last words, all that stuff. So, but
That's
I think
a
you're
lot of
spot
timing
on.
going on.
But it really answers the question, or it kind of helps. I guess doesn't answer the question. It helps give you the opportunity to have the question or the dialogue of, you know, if to Joe's point, if you are going to have $8 million or $5 million or $10 million or whatever, what is the impact of paying for your grandkids' college right now? Mm-hmm. Does it mean that it goes from 8 million to 7.5? Like it's a number that didn't exist to begin with. It's such a immaterial, you know, do it now when you can enjoy the benefit of the thing that you're trying to do. It's all, listen, I'm happy for you if your estate plan, you know, I think the other thing, Joe, you said, or you got from another interview, was you never die at the end of your story. You always die in the middle of it.
In the middle, yeah.
And so, like, I get that. If you know, it's a surprise and, you know, you have this wealth to pass on, that's fantastic. But you know what? If the church needs a new organ and it's $300,000, it sure is nice to hear the damn thing play. You know, versus going, "Oh, you guys are in my estate plan." And
are you saying you don't get to plan the perfect last words?
You can't stick the landing.
saying, like, if you're gonna die with $10 million in the bank, go. This is the hill I die on. Literally, you better have taken your kids to Disney and grandkids to Disney. Like, Joe, I don't want to hear anything. If your chart goes like this and you're belly aching about a $20,000 Disney trip,
that's why Debbie and I are at Disney's Vero Beach Resort right now, while we speak.
Thank
Got
you.
the plug-in for you guys.
Disney's Vero Beach Resort.
There you go.
I'm going to possibly
Vero Beach
derail
Resort.
things, Joe.
Oh, no.
I'm not sure where you were headed next, but I had a thought, and Evan Edwards, 9523, had the thought almost the same time I did.
This is great.
Right.
Love to hear your thoughts on partially retiring at 55, not pulling for retirement money, but making enough to make ends meet.
And just to expand on that a little bit, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I know he would as well, is what about the people who are watching and listening who aren't looking at the possibility of $4 million in their retirement, but are hoping to maybe have $250,000 on, you know, and that's a stretch. That's what they're hoping for. How does this kind of outlook impact them when they're just thinking about, God, I hope I can pay rent when I'm 79?
That was one of the advisors at our meeting yesterday when I showed them. They said, there's a lot of people I talk to, they just got to figure out how to get by. They're not worried about the fancy wine or smoking pot all day or getting up late for yoga. They're just trying to figure out how to get to the next day. Absolutely 110%. I don't have an answer for you, but I think that's worthy of examination.
Oh, what good are you if you don't have an answer?
Well, I might have an answer, but it wouldn't be the right one.
Are you really worried about it that much if you're smoking weed all day?
Maybe that's the solution. The hell with rent, buy the pot.
Maybe that's, I like how he's tripping over everything as he's microdosing in the movie. Evan, I don't know about everybody else, but I love this idea of this is the partial retirement idea that we were talking about earlier, Tom, right here.
Yeah, sort of easing out.
Yeah, taking.
This is what
wading in.
Christine and both of you, Joe also mentioned something very similar at Retire Me, this process of easing your way into retirement by sort of beginning it a little earlier, and back to the point about, is that last dollar you put into your 401k just before you retire making a big difference? Is it better spent? And that kind of plays into that.
And by the way, nobody knows, and Christine Benz, since you mentioned her earlier, had that great quote about withdrawal rates. The only correct withdrawal rate you're going to know is after you're gone. Did it work or did it not work? I mean, that's the only one that at the end of the day, well, yeah, you ended up with this or you didn't end up with that. So to any sort of planning should look at all the possibilities, but it is not going to know what's going to happen tomorrow, returns of stocks, bonds, the rest of it for the next 25 or 30 years. Nobody knows that.
Guys, because we started 15 minutes late, we're going to go till quarter past the hour. I love we're getting some questions from people. If you've got questions, put those in the chat. We're going to keep
daughter's going to be out here for dinner in a minute, but okay, we'll make it work. All this
dinner. It's lunchtime.
Gets cranky. Here's a question: what methods do you use to front load spend in go-go years and reassure clients that they'll still have enough? Tom?
Well, I mean, this goes to a good planner. There's people. Here's the way I look at it, and again, I discussed this at our recent gathering. The amount of money you want to spend at the beginning generally is going to be more than it will be in the middle. Maybe at the end, it may be as much. You've kind of seen this chart: the go-go years, the slow-go years, and no-go years. So when we do planning, we incorporate that. I think the biggest misconception most people have around this topic, however, is they believe they're spending less money than they actually are. Most people come into our office and think they're spending, cost of living is $80,000, and then when we run the actual numbers, they're spending $130,000. So when we run retirement projections, we use the spending you're doing today. I don't think people really get into retirement and save as much money. My son,
you found the same thing, OG. Because you and I have had this discussion before. You'll see people that say, 70%. You're like, yeah, no.
Well, I think it falls. I think there's two areas where people kind of forget their spending. The first area is, excuse me. The first area is they kind of think about what the Amex bill is, like $8,000 a month, give or take, and then forget the $20,000 tax bill, the $1,500 twice a year for car insurance, the $5,000 that they give it to charity or to, holiday time for Christmas or and the $10,000 Europe trip. And it's
or in Florida, the new air conditioner every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
my dog got his eye fixed. He's sitting right down, and below me it was $3,000. I mean, these things aren't cheap.
So we think about our spend in terms of like what our credit card
the monthly bill. Yeah,
but you gotta. The only way to do this is to be honest with yourself, and the reality is like the only person you're cheating out of this is you. Like there's nobody else that, I mean, your spouse maybe, but the math is the math. And if you start with a BS number, it's going to be BS the whole way through. So
yeah, I like Paul, the from the Firelighter podcast, great podcast, been on the show, hanging out with us. Paul says facts are friendly. Real spending is what matters. Once you track real numbers, your vision clears up. Like use the real numbers. That's what you're saying, Tom.
Yeah, and to me, again, it's gross income minus what you paid in taxes, minus what you saved. Everything else you're spending. Most people are in denial about that. They
that's
say,
the number. Well, and it's simple math.
Yeah.
Oh, they do, and then you argue with them.
Had a yelling match last Saturday.
Yeah, the great thing now is you don't have to put a lot of work into this. You can just download your Amex statement and your bank statement, dump it into ChatGPT, and go, tell me my spend. Yep. Mine, it said you have an unused wine subscription you apparently forgot to cancel. And I was
Make sure you get the Italian red, apparently.
I have not forgotten to cancel it, sir.
The year of the good rains.
Yes, the good rains.
Can still taste it.
OG wasn't waiting around for retirement for the good rain.
I will say in my defense, Claude did tell me that if I drank the appropriate amount of wine as recommended by the American Medical Association, which is 7 glasses of wine a week, it would take me 7 years to finish my wine collection. So I should probably slow down on buying it.
Well, you got to let it age. That's
what I said. I said, what am I going to drink today if I wait for this stuff to get older?
Priorities. There is that dramatic change that we talked about in the movie, him going from kind of big and gregarious to suddenly he is very frail and he has the walker. And that brings up Julia's question. She says, in the no-go years, you may have long-term care to pay for rather than expensive hobbies. How do you plan for LTC? Man, Julia, you nailed it, because this is a CFP's nightmare. It's, I think, the nightmare of nightmares for retirement. Don, where do we start with long-term care?
It's a disaster, and I hate to say there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do about it, except do what the smart preparers, those pre-retirees, have done for hopefully much of their life, and that is save until you can't save no more.
You could buy a nice long-term care policy, Don. I mean,
you can't buy a nice long-term care policy. That's the problem. You can
give them your money and they'll insure you. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, well, kind of insure you. Have you looked at long-term care policies lately and their exclusions and what they cover on a month or on a daily basis? Sometimes it's $100 a day. And you've been paying thousands and thousands of dollars into this policy. Most of the long-term policies that exist today are horrible. They used to be good because they promised more than they could deliver, and they had to stop selling what they couldn't deliver. So you have to remember, when you're buying insurance, you're making a bet with the insurance company, and the insurance company is saying, I am less likely to pay these costs than you are. I'm going to make money off of you. That's not a deal where you're going to get paid back from your insurance. That's not how it works. So when it comes to long-term care, the options are pretty terrible. There are a lot of highly sold, high commission products, and you got to be really, really careful. If you got into them years ago, good for you. If you're trying to get one now, best of luck.
It's interesting, though, because if you do it, you've got a minefield, right? What are the provisions inside of the policy? If you don't do it, you put your entire portfolio at risk. I mean, even if it's $100,000 a day, you're playing a different game than they're playing, Don. You're playing one person versus they're playing the law of large numbers, where
they're playing the larger. But the fact is, though, the average amount, and I don't have the exact number in front of me because it changes, but the average amount of time someone spends in a nursing home is below 2 years. Anything off of that is an exception. It's not the rule, and it may be in a worst case scenario. Yeah, you got to spend down all your wealth and then you go on Medicaid. But those are exceptions rather than rules for those who have substantial amounts of money put aside. There aren't any good options. I wish they were great long-term care policies that I was confident would pay, but they have lifetime they have lifetime maximums. They have very low payments. They really don't cover a lot.
Wow, Tom, this guy's a bucket of sunshine.
I know.
I am. I'm depressing when it comes to
look,
this.
you only have to deal with them today. I get them every day.
Wow.
Come on, I come on to some award or something.
Well, you're going to get a break on Saturdays soon.
Oh, gee, how do you guys look at this? How do you guys look at long-term care?
Well, I don't have as sour of an opinion about this as Don does, but I do think the problem exists because of the mispricing of it from 25 odd years ago. Yeah. And living that now, because we have plenty of people, including my parents and my in-laws and stuff like that. When I was a new advisor and they were 50, or when they turned 50, I was like, hey, look at this cool stuff I can sell you. And you should have to ensure your stability in the future. And every year we get emails from them or calls from them that say, hey, I got another letter. I got to either pay a higher premium or accept a reduced benefit. That's happening all over the place. Mm-hmm. I think about it from the calculation of probability and magnitude. So Don's already given us the idea of like how long this is going to be. And you as soon as you said the length, in my mind, I wanted to say 17 months is what I read.
Yes, I don't remember the exact number. That's why I said 29. Less than 2 years.
But yeah, it could be whatever, a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then I think, okay, well, what's the magnitude of that cost? If it happens, and it depends on where you are, of course, but let's say $10K a month. So you're looking at 170,000 times two people, $350,000 of money. If you're in a financial position to be able to afford that, then yeah, you should put that in your plan. If you don't have the wherewithal to write a check for $350,000 on the back end, then I don't know what you do because you can't. The insurance for that, to Don's point, is so profoundly expensive. I think it's useful for the catastrophic number. So if you're going to look at it, I like to consider it for, hey, we're going to take the first 2 years, like Don said. That's the average. If it's me and the wife and we use it for 2 years, that's in the plan. But if I've got a memory care issue and I'm going to be there for 13 years, I want Genworth to cover that, or whoever, Mutual of Omaha or somebody. I want
your last resort. I hate to say it, those Medicaid.
Yeah, no, but then you got to be completely broke.
You got to be completely broke. Yes,
I burned through all my money, and my spouse.
And if you're the last person, that's not as big a problem.
Right.
If you're the last person in a couple, that's not as big a problem.
I was this many years
I'm hoping
old.
to be the first one. It just makes my life a hell of a lot easier.
You and me both.
I was this many years old when I found out what a big number Medicaid is, specifically the long-term care piece of Medicaid is on state balance sheets. Like, it is often one of the largest expenses that a state has. So this is a big issue for the states, big issue for everybody. In fact, it's funny. I have a family friend who's a researcher at MIT who studies this. And the pricing, Don, that you talk about is because of the fact that the states would not allow the big jumps as the actuaries were going, no, we're wrong here. The state went, no,
You're talking about the state insurance commissions.
The state insurance commissioner would not allow the jacked up pricing that the insurance companies needed. So most of them exited, as you know, and they and so the policies ended up grossly mispriced because, to protect us, believe it or not, to protect the average person from what looked like just horrible stuff. I've got another question here, which is about annuities, just because I want to see Don's head explode.
You thought the insurance wasn't enough, apparently. Huh? You really want to get him going, okay?
We're just pressing his hot buttons before he goes to bed.
We have 2 minutes, and you're going to end on annuities?
Well, here's the interesting thing I want to ask you guys about, which is, I saw 2 more statistics today. Number one is people that have an immediate annuity that like gives them a spending floor. These people, their satisfaction with this product is huge. It is huge. They love them. Like they love them. However, nobody will buy them, right? People don't buy them, yet when they do buy them, satisfaction's to the roof.
That's the only kind of annuity to me.
Well, and deferred annuities,
that makes
Don,
sense,
are exactly the opposite. People that own deferred annuities generally don't know why they have it. They don't understand how they're going to use it. They're frustrated as all get out with the product. But where do you guys stand on this question that Dividend Gypsy has about buying an annuity to create a bigger spending floor?
Tom, go ahead.
The one you just mentioned is the only one we recommend. I would recommend would be the immediate period, and we've talked about that many, many times. The rest of it, big commissions, confusing how it all works. We could get into equity index annuity. I'm sure Don will be happy to do that.
And you only want an immediate annuity for a portion of your money because you still need flexibility with some of your portfolio. So to put an immediate annuity in place to cover some basic needs can give you a high degree of comfort. But I need to, once again, I have to be hard on the insurance industry because they sell an illusion to people. They sell one of their illusions that they sell is this illusion of absolute safety. When you buy an annuity, they say it's guaranteed. The only other entity that says something is guaranteed is the U.S. government. And the insurance you get from the insurance industry, that guarantee, is not anywhere near as robust. But the implication is that it is.
It warms my heart to see how consistent he is, Tom.
Yes, he is that.
He is
strident and consistent.
He is very consistent. Guys, we've got so much more on this topic we could talk about, but we are going to call it a night here. Thank you for staying with us while we were on the struggle bus with this platform, Riverside, which is our solution. Frustrating the heck out of us right now.
Our solution.
I'm glad that
past tense.
Is there a new solution in the offing?
I'm glad that everybody stuck with us because I loved chatting with you guys. And of course, Don and Tom, I always love hanging out with you two. Where can people find you? What's coming up on Talking Real Money?
Talking Real Money. We're going all podcast all the time. Talking Real Money is no longer, as of Saturday, a radio show. It's podcasting 5 days a week. So
5.
every Monday,
5
Tuesday,
days.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we are putting a new podcast up for everybody out there. And of course, it's available on all major podcast services right next to Stacking Benjamins. It's right there. We're right next to each other.
It
And I
is
can tell you
below.
one other thing that's going to
Just
change
below.
is I'm going to be doing a lot more smoking pot, drinking red wine, and swimming. I'm going to be because after you've had all that, you're going to jump in that
Nude.
cold water. You're not going to notice, so you're all set. So thank you
Tom's-
for
It's
permission.
the microdosing that's going to make you go in the
What,
water.
what people don't know is Tom's house is across that lake behind him, and he's got to swim home after this.
This is not going to be easy, but I'm going to try anyway. So
Yes.
thank you
In the
for having
winter.
us. By the way, It's been
Yeah,
great.
thank you for
As
this,
always.
Joe and Josh
Always.
and Doug.
You
Well,
guys are
Doug.
the best. We love your work. So
Well,
Yeah.
thanks for hanging out, and thanks to OG for bearing with us. He loves nighttime activity, so thanks for
So great. I'm very
Coming out.
excited.
coming out for this.
I think
Oh,
we need
sorry.
to do these at like 4 o'clock from now on. That really
Yes.
suits me better. It's on YouTube, for God's sake. They can watch the recording,
All right, Doug.
Gosh, OG, you and I are of a similar mind. It's bedtime,
Wrap it up,
dude.
boys.
Yes, sir.
Yes, wrap this up, Doug. What
Get us
should we
outta
have
here,
learned?
Dougie.
Should we have learned anything today?
I got a couple of things. Joe, first, there are endless options for what you can do once you gain a little financial independence, but that can lead to pressure to be productive even when you may not need to be. For many, this is when the act of planning replaces action. Don't let that happen. Second, don't put your ambitions and dreams in a warehouse to be accessed later. It may not feel like it, but you have time right now, and you might not later. But the big lesson, it is never too early to start making a list of who you're going to haunt the living bleep out of when you die. I mean, how else is OG supposed to learn there are consequences for his actions? Stop doing that on my sofa cushion.
Oh,
Wow.
It just keeps doing it. Thanks to Don and Tom for joining us. Hear them daily on their podcast, Talking Real Money.
thank you for that.
This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2026, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
What was that?
It's called the medium sketch.
The medium sketch?
Yeah, it wasn't rare and it certainly wasn't well done.